Violence against women and children is still a very real issue in South Africa. That is why it is the focus of the 2025 South African Child Gauge. The report looks at how these forms of violence are interlinked and how we can build safer and healthier families and communities. Stay tuned because we are about to speak to one of the contributors who will help us understand this issue and share what we can do to make a change.
The South African Child Gauge is the flagship research publication of the Children's Institute, and the 2025 issue brought together over 70 researchers, policymakers, and practitioners as chapter authors and case study authors. Now, this 18th edition of the Child Gauge focuses on intersections of violence against women and children. Now, to help us understand this very intricate topic a bit better, we are joined by one of the authors of the 2025 Child Gauge, Wessel van der Berg. So, hi Wessel, can you introduce yourself and explain the topic you wrote about for the Child Gauge?
Sure. Hi, Emily, and to the listeners. It's great to be on the show. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Wessel, like you said, my name is Wessel van der Berg, and I am a father of two children and a partner to my wife, Renee. My son is 9 years old and my daughter is 12 years old, and that's my main job in life is caring for them. And then in my spare time, I work at an organization called Ekimundo Center for Masculinities and Social Justice. And I work as an advocacy officer there. Um, so that's the introduction. And in terms of the chapter, I worked on the chapter with my colleague, Professor Lillian Arts at University of Cape Town, and we started looking at what the intersections of violence against women and children look like in households, particularly in the home. This is often invisible and not really well documented. Um, and it also was quite clear that violence happens amongst genders. In other words, men often use violence towards women, men may use violence against other men, but it also happens across generations. So perpetrators who use violence may use it to people in other generations than them, for example, towards children, but it also goes across to elder abuse, for example. So it's very much this wide range of the types of um, experiences of violence that happens in homes in South Africa. So that was the broad angle that we started with.
Mhm. Now, Wessel, what are the most important things children should know about violence in families?
Well, a really important point for children to realize is that violence is not okay. It is unacceptable in any shape or form. And by violence, we mean uh, any form of shouting, humiliation, pushing, shoving, physically hurting each other. Um, and to be clear, not in a way that, is like playing rough and tumble with a ball or wrestling or having fun together, but in a way that one of the people feels hurt or harmed.
Mm.
And it could be physical, um, it could be emotional, that you feel sad or depressed afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's really important that children understand that the world doesn't require violence. We live in a world where violence is not necessary. And in fact, households, my children know that I will never use corporal punishment with them. I will never hit them to punish them, and that we respect each other's safety, we respect each other's bodies, and we create an environment in our household where we feel safe together. Um, so a key message to the families out there is that it is possible, and it is possible to achieve that, because I sometimes feel that if you grow up in a context where you're exposed to violence, where people are shoving or hitting or hurting each other, you might believe that that is the way the world is. And
Yes.
I just want to send a very clear message that that is not the way the world is meant to be.
Yes. Now, Vessel, what can families do to make home a safer and more caring space for everyone?
Well, I've done a lot of work over the years as a dad to get to know how to take uh, better care of my children, and with my male friends to really think about ways in which we can improve our time that we spend with our children. Um, so one key way to improve care in a household is just to notice where men and even older brothers, uncles, grandfathers, fathers. So I'm not only talking about dads, but all the men in a household, firstly, are already doing some of the care work. In other words, where are they already doing some of the domestic work? Where are they already doing some of the cooking, some of the infant care, some of the pet care? And to really notice that and to encourage more of that. Where it is not happening, to watch shows on Netflix. There's this wonderful series called Fathers Matter that's on YouTube. To bring stories into the household that show the boys and the men in the household that they can also carry some of the care work, in addition to the girls and the women in the household. So that immediately creates a more shared experience of care. Um, and from our research at Ekimundo, we've seen around the world that boys are not born with an inability to care. Boys
Mm.
grow up wired to care as girls do, but the more that boys engage in society, play games online, etc., the more they get the message that boys should not be as caring as girls are. Um, so one way to change that is to just counter that with interesting stories online, on streaming services, or just telling it about examples from friends. Um, and to be clear, I'm not saying that games per se are bad, because I do think that children will play games if they've got access to a device. It's more that parents should understand the games that the children are playing, and one way of doing that is actually joining them. There's a Roblox game that I play with my son regularly, and he sometimes tries to introduce me to some of the other games that I find a bit boring. But there's some that I like that he finds a bit boring. But the point is that, after kicking a ball in the yard, we move over into the online world and we play together there too. Um, so I'm in touch with him and I know what he's exposed to. And in that way we can talk about it and we can really, share that journey together.
Mm. Now, what can boys and men do to help reduce violence and support the people around them?
I think it's really important that particularly adult men take responsibility for using violence and to reduce or to stop using violence if they are using violence. Um, I think that like I was saying, that boys are not born in a way that already prepositions them to use violence, but
Yeah.
the world and the system that we're exposed to, particularly messages online, really encourage harmful behavior by boys and by men. So to answer your question, what boys and men can do to reduce the use of violence or to support those around them, um, the first step is just to take good care of yourself, to find support for your own mental health, to recover from any trauma that you've experienced, to access services, go for counseling, speak to a friend at school, go to a mental health counselor, find support where you can, or even if it's a trusted adult or friend in the neighborhood, um, that you firstly recover and make sure that you are able to take care of yourself. Um, and then secondly, if you see an instance of harm being caused, to find a safe way for that to be noticed by people around the household or outside the household. I think a lot of the invisibility of violence in a household is what perpetuates it. It keeps going because nobody knows about it, and there's this silent agreement that we will not talk about this.
Mm.
But um, there's a saying from the 12-step program, the Alcoholics Anonymous program that I've heard people talk about on the radio, which is that shame does not survive the light. So, in other words, if you shine a light on something, no matter how bad you feel about it before you've spoken about it, once
Mm.
it's exposed to the world, there's always a feeling of relief and increased safety.
Mm.
So, I would say those two very practical steps: take care of yourself and try and find a safe way for everybody to know about what's happening. Um, and I think, boys and men can do that, but girls, of course, and all gender identities. It's not only boys and men who can do that.
Mm. Now, how can children speak up or take small steps that make a difference in their families and friendships?
I think just to hold on to the experience of friendship and to really understand that friendship is the basis for all your relationships in your life, that um, I think some of the steps that children can take definitely is to speak to a trusted adult if there's a instance of harm, but also to express concern and care for each other as friends.
Yes.
Um, I think it's really healthy for boys to have friends who are of other genders, who are girls, that they are not necessarily assuming that they should be liking each other, or like my daughter says, that they are shipped together. But that they actually just become friends as a large group of all genders. And I think that normalizes and takes a bit of the pressure off the kind of binary relationship between boys and girls. So, and I think, if you're in a group of friends and you notice that there's somebody in your classroom or in the playground who is not a member of the group, to really reach out, because I do think that expanding the network of friendships is a really good way um, to anchor good, caring connections between people. And that's so preventative of violence in all ways.
Well, Vessel, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a very informative interview.
Sure. Yeah. I hope the listeners find some value in it. And I think the last thing to say is, um, thinking about boys and men, that in South Africa, we know that most children do not live in the same house as their biological dad. Um, but what we also know is that most children live in a house with another man. So there's often mum's new partner, or an older brother who's an adult, or a grandfather, or an uncle. And I think something that would really mean a lot for our country is if not just the biological dads, but the other men in households also step into parenting and caregiving. It is your place. You can really, just walking a child to school or to a clinic is a really valuable thing to do, even if you don't develop a really close relationship. So that's my kind of final nudge that I'd like to make, is that let's get the uncles, the grandfathers, the brothers to be involved in a safe and caring way with children in households.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Emily. Well done.
Thank you.